Childhood tech ranked. Growing up in the 2000s and 2010s, we had access to what will probably be remembered as some of the greatest tech that we as humans have ever created. Just some examples of tech we grew up with that have faded away in the last few decades are classic point and shoot cameras, MP3 players, and many others. It's no secret that I love the 2000s. I love the tech, the culture, the music, the fashion, just the overall nostalgic feeling of the decade. Just to prove this point, even as I speak, I'm listening to MCR. But since I and so many others look at the 2000s and 2010s through such an idealized lens of childhood, I thought we'd take a look back together and rank some of the tech we grew up with. MP3 players. I've stated my love for physical media in many videos before, but I don't think I've ever spoken at length about MP3 players, which is strange because I absolutely love them. Oh, and I used one until way too recently. There were certainly some big wins with MP3 players throughout the 2000s and even in the earlier years of the 2010s. One that immediately comes to mind is Apple's iPod, which only really fell off in terms of popularity because Apple came out with something even better and more versatile. In my research for this video, I also found out that Apple has sold just under 500,000,000 iPods as of 2022. But most of us couldn't afford something like the iPod, oh no. Most of us used something like this and downloaded mostly pirated music onto it. There were also some attempts to replicate the success of the iPod, most notably the Microsoft Zune, which even though I know some people who used it, it was just a bit late to the party. I always have and always will love MP3 players. 9 out of 10. Cameras. I've already spoken on this channel about how much I love classic 2000s point and shoot cameras. The way they feel, the way they sound, just the general atmosphere they created. If you grew up in the era of point and shoot cameras, you'll know the really unique sounds that they made when you took a photo. And like I said in the other video on childhood tech, anytime you look at concert footage from this era, you can see flashing lights in the audience from the cameras. It just gave the whole decade a really distinctive feeling that you just can't really replicate now. The sounds they made are also like nothing else, like the sound they made when you turned them on and the lens opened up, or when you used the zoom or took a photo. The only problem is, do you remember the absolute agony of trying to transfer files from the camera to your computer? Something that modern phones have that old cameras just didn't, though, was the fact that now everything's backed up somewhere. Back in the day, if you lost your camera or it got damaged, everything stored on it was just gone. Like, I have a friend that went to see. Wait, was it Rammstein or Avenged Sevenfold? Okay, it was Rammstein. But she lost her camera in the crowd crush and lost absolutely all of her footage. If it wasn't for those two things, I'd rate this higher. 7 out of 10. Games consoles. Obviously, games consoles are still massively popular even now. That's not to say that this generation of consoles doesn't have problems, but that deserves a video entirely of its own. There really is nothing like the Xbox 360 or Wii. Not the PS3 though. No one remembers the PS3. I never had a console until I was a lot older, but I remember if any of my friends ever got one, I'd be absolutely blown away by the power of being able to play Minecraft at 30 FPS. The first console I ever got was a second-hand Nintendo Wii, but by that point the release of the Switch was imminent, so it was basically already obsolete. That's not to say that the Xbox 360 was perfect though. All through its lifespan it was affected by the infamous red ring of death. If you saw this come up on your power button, it effectively meant that your Xbox was now just a glorified paperweight. I never personally knew anyone who was affected by this bug, but I can only imagine the pain of going to turn on your extremely expensive console and just being met with this. Even putting aside my slightly rose tinted glasses from only ever using friends' consoles until a bit later, I think being raised with classics like Halo Reach and old Minecraft Xbox 360 alone deserves a 9. TV. 2000s TV really was something else. I think my generation still grew up for the most part with live TV, or we had absolutely incredible channels like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and shows like SpongeBob and Regular Show. I'm not crying, you're crying. Quick side note, even though I doubt people outside the UK or Ireland are familiar with this one, but was anyone else absolutely traumatized by Numberjacks as a child? Particularly this guy? Anyway, moving swiftly on. Now that most kids have access to platforms like YouTube or TikTok, we might have actually been the last generation ever to grow up with old fashioned TV. There really was nothing like the joy of coming home from school and seeing your favourite series was on, and it just saddens me that future generations will never have that feeling. But there's no denying that TV was also really inconvenient at times, and a lot of the time you'd be stuck watching absolute garbage. Even with that considered, I still think that this just has to be a 9 because of all the collective memories that the entire generation seems to have shared. This video has been filled with nothing but bangers. And that was some tech we grew up with ranked. I'm sorry for the sizable gap in uploads. Don't worry, I've got a lot of new ideas moving forward and new videos are coming very soon. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.